The day Aunt Eleanor died, I was outside in the garden, kneeling in the dirt with my hands deep in the soil. I was planting the special heirloom roses she had given me for my birthday. My phone buzzed 3 times in my pocket before I finally took off my gloves and answered it. "Miss Blackwood," said a formal voice I didn't recognize. "This is James Morton, your Aunt Eleanor's lawyer. I'm afraid I have some difficult news." My heart stopped. I stared at the roses in my hands, Eleanor's last gift to me, feeling suddenly heavy. "What happened?" I asked, my voice barely a whisper. "Your aunt passed away peacefully in her sleep last night," he said gently. He paused for a moment, then added, "She left very clear instructions that I was to call you first before anyone else in the family." I dropped down onto my knees in the dirt, not even caring. The world around me seemed to blur. Aunt Eleanor, the woman who taught me to read, who sneaked me cookies at boring family parties, who cheered for every dream I had, was gone. "Miss Blackwood, are you still there?" the lawyer asked. "Yes," I managed to say. "I'm here." What do you need me to do?" "Your aunt made specific plans for her funeral," he said, "and she left a letter for you to read before the service. Could you come to my office today?" I looked down at the roses again, Queen Elizabeth roses, her favorite kind. I remembered her smile just 2 weeks ago when she gave them to me. "These roses have been in our family for generations," she had said with a little laugh, "just like secrets." At the time, I thought it was just one of her mysterious jokes. Now, I wasn't so sure. "I'll be there in an hour," I told the lawyer. James Morton's office looked exactly like the kind of place that worked for old, rich families: dark wooden walls, leather chairs, and huge windows with a view of the city skyline, the kind of view that probably cost more than I made in a whole year. He stood up as I walked in and gave me a kind smile. "Miss Blackwood, thank you for coming. Please, have a seat." I sat down, trying not to fidget too much. "Mr. Morton, why did Aunt Eleanor want you to call me first?" I asked. He opened a drawer in his desk and pulled out 2 envelopes. One was thick, with the law firm's fancy letterhead. The other was smaller, cream-colored, with my name written in Eleanor's graceful handwriting. "Your aunt was a remarkable woman," Morton said carefully. "Brilliant, but very particular. She left very detailed instructions about everything: her will, her funeral, even what she wanted people to wear." I smiled a little. That sounded like her. He slid the cream-colored envelope across the desk to me. "She wanted you to read this privately before we discuss anything else." My hands shook a little as I picked it up. The envelope still smelled like her, roses and a hint of vanilla. I opened it carefully and pulled out a single sheet of paper. It said, "My dearest Olivia, if you're reading this, it means my time has finally come. Please don't be too sad. I lived exactly the life I wanted, which is more than most people ever get. But I need one last favor from you, my sweet girl. At my funeral, I want you to read another letter, one that will change everything for our family. You'll find it hidden in the secret compartment of my jewelry box, the one I showed you when you were 12. Remember the trick with the rose carving? Some may call it revenge, but I call it justice. Long overdue, but justice all the same. The truth is, I've left everything to you, Montgomery Industries, my personal fortune, all of it. But there's one condition: you must read that letter at my funeral, in front of everyone, no exceptions. I know it's a lot to ask, but you've always been the strong one, Olivia, the honest one. That's why it has to be you.
All my love.
Aunt Eleanor. P.S. Don't let them bury me in beige. You know how I feel about beige." I read it twice, my eyes burning with tears, then looked up at Morton. "She left everything to me?" I said, still in shock. He nodded and opened the official envelope. "Montgomery Industries, her personal estate, investment accounts. It's all about $89 million, give or take, but, like she said, it depends on you carrying out her final wish." My head spun. Eleanor had always been generous with me, but this was something else entirely. "What about my father, my cousins?" I asked. "There are a few small gifts for them," Morton said, almost kindly, "but most of the estate is yours, as long as you follow through with her instructions." I thought about my father, who had always been jealous of his sister's success. I thought about my cousins, who spent years pretending to love her just to get a piece of her fortune. I thought about all the family parties where Eleanor sat quietly, watching, waiting. "When's the funeral?" I asked. 3 days from now," he said, "at St. Michael's Cathedral." Then a reception at her estate. The whole family will be there. I stood up, clutching Eleanor's letter tightly in my hand. Then I should get going, I said. I have a jewelry box to find. As I reached the door, Morton called after me. Miss Blackwood, one more thing. Your aunt wanted me to tell you. You'll know what to do with the truth. The drive to Eleanor's estate felt like it took forever. My mind was racing the whole way. What was in the hidden letter? What secret was so important that Eleanor would risk everything for it? The iron gates swung open as I drove up. Eleanor had given me the access code years ago, saying she trusted me more than any security system. The house looked just like I remembered it, a huge old Victorian mansion, covered in roses that climbed up every wall. Everything was neat and beautiful, just like she liked it. Mrs. Peters, the housekeeper, opened the door with red, puffy eyes. "Oh, Miss Olivia," she said, giving me a sad smile. "I'm so glad you're here. She said you'd know what to do." "Thank you, Mrs. Peters," I said. "I won't be long." I made my way upstairs to Eleanor's room, her private, beautiful space, silk curtains in wild colors, modern art mixed with old family photos, and everywhere you looked, roses. The jewelry box sat on her dresser, just as I remembered, made of deep, rich rosewood, carved with delicate flowers. I ran my fingers over it until I found it, the small rose carving that hid the secret latch. "Third petal from the left," I whispered to myself. There was a soft click, and the hidden panel slid open. Inside was an envelope, sealed with wax. It was heavier than I expected, and I could feel something solid inside, maybe photographs. For a moment, I thought about opening it right there. But I knew Aunt Eleanor too well. If she wanted it read at her funeral, she had a reason. I slipped the envelope into my bag and looked around the room one last time. On her bedside table was a photo I had never seen before, a young Eleanor, standing proudly in front of the First Montgomery Industries office. She wore a smile that said she knew something the rest of the world didn't. "What did you know, Aunt?" I whispered to the photo. "What secret were you waiting your whole life to reveal?" The next 3 days flew by in a messy blur. There were funeral plans to finalize, flowers to order, arguments with family members who were suddenly very interested in every detail. My father called 6 times, trying to hide his fear and curiosity about the will. My cousins sent endless texts, pretending to care but clearly hoping for a piece of the inheritance. Through it all, I kept Eleanor's sealed envelope close, never letting it out of my sight. At night, I would sit quietly, holding it in my hands, wondering what truth had been hidden for so long, and what would happen when I finally told it. Revelation, the morning of the funeral. The morning of Aunt Eleanor's funeral was bright and clear, the sky almost too perfect for a day like this. I got dressed slowly, carefully choosing a deep blue suit, Eleanor's favorite color. I pinned one of her beautiful roses to my lapel, the petals soft against the dark fabric. As I picked up my bag, I could feel the heavy weight of the envelope inside, pressing down like it was holding more than just paper. It felt like it was carrying all the secrets Eleanor had kept hidden for so long. When I arrived at St. Michael's Cathedral, the place was already full. It seemed like everyone who had ever known Eleanor had come, family members, old business partners, important city officials. The Montgomery family had always been powerful and well-known, and Eleanor had been a big part of that. The moment I stepped inside, my father spotted me. He rushed over, looking anxious, his mouth set in a hard, worried line. "Olivia," he said urgently, grabbing my arm, "we need to talk about the will. Morton won't tell us anything. He says we have to wait until after the service." "What's happening?" I looked him straight in the eye, keeping my voice calm. "We'll all find out together, Dad. That's what Aunt Eleanor wanted." He tightened his grip on my arm, his fingers dug into my sleeve. "If you know something," he started. I pulled my arm free gently but firmly. "Let go, Dad. This is Aunt Eleanor's funeral. Please, show some respect." Without waiting for a reply, I walked past him and found my seat near the front. The service was beautiful, just the way Eleanor would have wanted. There wasn't a trace of beige anywhere, thank goodness. Instead, the church was full of roses in deep reds, bright pinks, and pure whites. The smell of them filled the whole building, sweet and comforting. The minister spoke about Eleanor's kindness, her sharp mind, and how much good she had done for others. People nodded along, some wiping tears from their eyes. Then it was time. James Morton, Aunt Eleanor's lawyer, caught my eye from his seat and gave me a small, encouraging nod. I took a deep breath and stood up, the envelope clutched tightly in my hands. My legs felt shaky, but I walked slowly to the front, past all the watching eyes. The cathedral fell completely silent. I could feel hundreds of people staring at me. I could see my father in the front row, his jaw clenched, his fingers tapping nervously against his knee. Beside him, my cousins John and Rebecca leaned forward eagerly, like they were waiting for me to hand them a prize. I paused for a moment at the podium, steadying myself. I took in a deep breath. The scent of the roses wrapped around me like a memory, and for a second, I could almost feel Eleanor there beside me, standing tall, strong, and proud. I looked up at the crowd and spoke, my voice steady even though my heart was pounding. Before she died, I said, my Aunt Eleanor wrote me a letter. She asked that it be read today, here, in front of all of you. Slowly, I broke the heavy wax seal on the envelope. My fingers felt clumsy, but somehow, I managed to pull out the stack of papers inside. Tucked between them were photographs, just as I had guessed. I caught a small, strangled sound from my father as I held up the first photo for everyone to see. It was a picture of a young Eleanor, smiling brightly, standing next to a man I didn't recognize. They were holding blueprints between them, and the way they looked at each other, full of excitement and hope, made it clear they had shared something important. The second photo showed the same man at a construction site, with wooden beams and concrete blocks behind him. It didn't take me long to recognize what it was, the beginning stages of Montgomery Industries' first building. I looked down at the first page of the letter and started reading, my voice ringing out across the quiet cathedral. My name was Eleanor Montgomery, I read, and this is the truth about how Montgomery Industries began. I saw people sit up straighter, my father's face turned pale, my cousins exchanged nervous glances. I kept going, my hands no longer trembling. Eleanor had trusted me with this moment, and I wasn't going to let her down.